This is surviving the music industry.
That sounds sick.
I didn't think about how that sounded.
What the fuck is up? I think that's all we can all say in our headspace right now. But I really mean, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Harrington. You're listening to Surviving the Music Industry, SMI, I like to call it, in my bedroom. That's how we all kind of know it. I'm in a bedroom, undisclosed location outside of Nashville, specifically in Whites Creek. So I guess it's undisclosed, but that's where we're at in this point in time. We're usually on I don't know, if you're new to this thing, we're usually in an attic in Music Row. It's a little place that I have where I have some records and some books and some gifts that artists like brung over, and kind of missing that stuff. I guess we're all kind of missing normalcy right now, right? What the fuck? This is where we're at. I don't know. But hopefully we can take you out of that little headspace just for a moment, and maybe we can laugh, we can cry, we can talk art, we can talk creativity, talk some new music. New lady busting on the scene, Americana. She's got her EP out, extended play, no fun. And it's a little bit of the opposite of that. If I try to do some kind of anything punny with it, which I'm not trying to, I'm not a punny kind of guy, but it is pretty fun. I think this is like one of those artists like people kind of need to know, you know, kind of busting out in the scene, doing the thing. I think more people are going to gravitate toward this and fall in love with it. So I caught up with her. But let's see, any like what the fuck moments in our life. I mean, all right, let's on the real, like groceries started going low. And as of right now, Nashville has this kind of, stay at home. It'd be better if you stay at home rather than, going out with other East Nashvillians and try to get a pizza and hang out at the park and drink our IPAs. People are still doing it. I don't understand it, but that's where we're at. But anyway, we had to get out. We had to get the essentials. And so, you kind of strap on the mask. And you put on the long sleeves and the rain jackets. What are rain jackets going to do for you? Protect this. I think about that crappy movie, The Happening. You remember that? M. Night Shyamalan. And like the plants were killing people. But at the beginning of the movie, it's like the serene, beautiful thing. And it drives people mad, something that happens, and they're mowing over everybody. That's what I think this situation is. It's like this thing that you can't see, and it's a beautiful spring in the South right now. And the rest of the states, the rest of the world is changing to the climate, and it's becoming beautiful. But we got this mystery murder kind of going on called the Ronas. I'm not making light of the situation, especially if people are sick, they lost members. That's just a crazy time, right? We never expected Black Plague Part 2. But anyway, we had to put on some clothes. We had to go get the essentials. And we thought, the next county up only has like 11 cases. And where Nashville has like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and approaching the thousands, I'm pretty sure. And so we thought, well, if we go to the next county up, maybe we'll be safe. We walk in and we got Bubba just in shorts. And we're kind of looking like, I don't know, something from Fallout 4, this post-apocalyptic movie situation where we just kind of look like over-preppers. We get the craziest looks. There's cashiers, just not, with gloves or anything. I mean, this is exactly why the Rona is going to be spreading. Because people like this, people just don't take it seriously. Seriously, people don't get out unless you really have to, obviously. But then at the same time, if you're going to go out, if you're going to be an essential worker working at a grocery store, I want you to cover up. I don't know. What's wrong with covering up? Isn't that what you were told in sex ed? At some point, you got to cover up. And this is where we're at. I feel like most people just aren't taking it maybe as serious as a lot of people. What I found is that people aren't taking it as serious outside of like any kind of metro city. Because metro counties, cities, we're disgusting. I'll go ahead and fully admit that. There's people all over the place. We're in proximity of one another. You go out in the country, people are spread out. I don't know. It's just like, it's normal life. I just talked to my dad. They had no clue. I mean, they were just, they were going to the movies. This is where we're at. There's just not a full I don't know, a full thing in people's minds that this is not serious enough for them. I don't know. What's it really going to take? If I can plead, if I have a voice to change things, just take it seriously. For humanity's sake, take it seriously, especially if you want your family tree to kind of keep growing. So stay at home. Need those essentials, take care of yourself. And especially if you are an essential worker, managers, companies, take care of your people. Give them the right stuff, whatever that means. I don't know. But I hope everybody's doing well. They're healthy. And I didn't mean to kind of go on that tangent there, but that's just kind of where my headspace is. I think this is where everybody's headspace is, right? I don't know. I'm a negative realist at heart. And I try to be positive, but it's just not going to work. I just know it's not. Every time I jump on the mic, I think, I'm going to be this power of positivity. It's a tough thing for me, this negative realist thing, and of course being a creative in the arts, and I don't know, but there are shining moments of beauty and humanity. I mean, I always gravitate to humor more than anything, so there's some funny stuff going on, and it's not so funny time. Sometimes you just got to sit back and laugh at yourself. Like anybody releasing a record or projects right now, you got to sit back and just think, well, I'm going to put it out, see what happens. So I think everybody kind of being locked up, quarantine, being kind of sanctioned off in their own headspace and isolation. Don't have to be so lonely at SMI Podcast, smipodcast.com. You always talk to us, see what's going on. And then, of course, there's music coming out. And the arts are still, people still like the arts and stuff that they were working on since like December or even 2019. They're all coming out now. So there's fresh content, there's fresh music, there's fresh movies and art that's still available. There's going to be a little bit of a kind of a boring time. But in this time right now, some new music is out. Mara Connor is one of those artists busting on the scene. Her extended play was released. I think you guys need to know who she is. Kind of get to know her just a little bit in this. I fully admit that we didn't start off on the right foot because, I want to try, and I go full hundo% when I meet somebody. Like whatever this branded is, I kind of give them the hundo% of who he is, and I made a crack. I don't think it went over well, mostly just because of the Tiger King movie. She wasn't familiar with it, so that's where we started. But we eventually got somewhere, and I think that you guys need to get to know her, and when we get to know her in this conversation, mom and dad in the LA scene, doing the LA thing, LA native, Mara Connor. The music reflects that quite a bit. And then, of course, as a songwriter, it's really poetic, geographically speaking, emotionally speaking, mostly like in the headspace of relationships. And she's got a unique spin and way, especially how she approaches music. And the conversation was great. All that to say, I enjoyed getting to know her. And we found our footing. We found some common ground, her and I, and we did it. We got to it. MaraConnor.com is where you can go get the EP, No Fun. Of course, you can go to any of your favorite streaming services, No Fun EP. You can also give her a follow at Mara Connor and other places at Mara Connor Music. Most people will probably remember or maybe seen her with her track collaboration with Langhorne Slim, Someone New. Man, that was a great collab, but she's fresh on the scene, and I think it's just going to be a matter of time people kind of figure out who she is. All right, so here we go. Me try to connect with her with Tiger King, and this is where we're at.
I'm a big animal lover, so Tiger King is the new thing that I keep hearing everyone talking about.
You haven't dove into it yet?
No, because doesn't it take place at a zoo or something?
Yeah, if you're like 100% like animal lover, I just don't think you will love this movie whatsoever, because it's about the drama between all these people that own exotic animals, and specifically tigers. And then by episode 2, it escalates between these two people that just have a moral and emotional hate toward one another. And then, not to spoil it for anybody, but that it just eventually becomes criminal. And so it just escalates because it's a modern documentary. But I can totally see where you're thinking, yeah, this isn't going to be my jam.
Yeah. I'm all about the interesting, like, psychological character study stuff, but if any animals are harmed in the making, you can count me out.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Like, I respect animals, but I'm not gonna like join PETA by any means. But when you watch it, you're just kind of like, who are these people like that own a wild tiger and like force them to breed and crossbreeding and just for like thousands and thousands of dollars? It's an insane journey and ride, and emotionally, like, we even felt it. It was just kind of like, why? Who are these people to exist? What kind of person are you?
Yeah,
it's nuts. So I guess it's not for you.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I didn't sell it. Yeah, we're not sponsored by them. All right, so you're in Los Angeles right now. I mean, musician-wise, the vibe is all good. Things seem nice and warm. But I mean, are you hanging in there? You feeling pretty good about yourself, especially this time that we're in?
Yeah, I'm okay. Luckily, I grew up here, so I'm near family. My parents are nearby, and I have a nice support system, like I said, of good friends and stuff. So I feel very, very fortunate right now to be okay.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're in California. So were you born there? Like, mom and dad moved there before you, and that's where you're from? That's home?
Yeah, my family, my extended family, and my parents are all from the Midwest, but my parents moved here before I was born. So I grew up born and raised in LA, and then I went to New York for school. I was in upstate New York for college, and then I moved to Brooklyn for a couple of years after that. And then I found my way back home.
Yeah. Yeah. What does mom and dad do?
They're both actors, actually. My mom's an actor, filmmaker, writer, and my dad is an actor.
What kind of stuff have they been in?
They're super talented, and they've been in all different stuff from TV and film to theater. My dad grew up in Chicago, so his first love is theater. And my mom's a total film buff and a filmmaker. So she's been on shows like Mad Men and Criminal Minds, and he's done stuff like Big Love. And he was just in New York in a play at Cherry Lane Theater in the West Village. And he's also in the new show about the Lakers that's coming out on HBO. Everything's kind of, we'll see what happens now with the current state of the world. But yeah, some cool stuff on the horizon for him. And my mom and I also just co-directed my last music video for a song called Wildfire. And it's a crazy 1960s inspired twisted music video starring me and a mannequin co-star.
Yeah. All right. So mom and dad are they on like both sides of the camera? Mom being a director and a producer, does dad do that as well? Or does he just stay in front of the camera?
A little bit. He's primarily an actor, but he's done some directing and producing as well. So yeah. Okay.
So artistic.
Family of artists.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, artistic family. It's just kind of like, you were destined like down that path, or like you become that unicorn and become a lawyer or something.
Right. It does seem like it's one or the other. Like you kind of go down the path of your folks, or you go completely the opposite direction. My mom was actually an attorney before she was a filmmaker. So,
oh, wow.
Got a little bit of both. But yeah, I always wanted to be in the arts since I can remember.
Yeah. So you decided too for yourself at some point, like you're going to go down this actor route, right? You mentioned you went to school in New York. Was that for acting?
I did some theater there, and I kind of knew by the end of high school that I wanted to do music. I joined my first indie rock band in LA the summer after high school. I was dating this guy who had a band, and I started singing backup vocals, and it was kind of a collective. Like, there were a bunch of us, all different instruments, like violin and trumpet and electric guitars and everything. So I just kind of fell in love with it through that, just playing all these shows and staying up late and hanging out. And I'd been writing songs since I was a little kid, but I've never really took it that seriously. It just felt like more of a hobby. And then when I found out how fun it is and that it, you know, it could be a career, I just immediately dropped everything else and was like, this is it. So while I was in New York, I started my own band, and I was writing a lot of songs, and started playing shows in New York City, and then, you know, started on that path and never looked back.
Yeah. Okay. But it sounds like, especially, you have a pretty lucky childhood. I mean, mom and dad being both artists, and they can possibly even see that you were writing like your ditties as a kid, writing some little songs, and then growing up, you're still in this artistic path. And then I guess when you decided like, I'm not going to do acting, I'm going to do music, they were just kind of like, well, we probably saw this coming, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel so lucky that I was exposed to so much music and art from such an early age. Like, my parents both have great taste in music. So even as a little kid, they were introducing me to all of my favorite stuff that I still listen to. A lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s, like Joni Mitchell and Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan, Fleetwood Mac and the Beach Boys. And then, you know, as I got older, I found my own stuff and got into Elliott Smith and Fiona Apple, and then on to present day, you know, all of the amazing current music that's out there. But yeah, my mom was also a big influence for me in terms of writing. Like, she's a writer herself, and while she's not really a songwriter, she just helped me with my songwriting along the way. Like, when I first started writing songs as a little kid, she was like, okay, these are great, like positive reinforcement, but also like they're kind of cliche.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she sat me down with some of the all-time great, you know, classic albums, and was like, listen to Joni Mitchell's Blue, and like, listen to the song A Case of You. This is a lesson in songwriting right here, you know, and like, listen to the specificity in these lines and the personal stories behind them. And that kind of is still that's kind of where I still am going for.
Dude.
Like, that kind of style of songwriting.
That's insane. I mean, not everybody will listen to Blue and say, oh, listen to the structure. It's more of like a poetic phrasing than like song and hook driven. And even like, this is all like making sense in my head, like with your music. Like, even I feel like Fiona Apple is like a poetic writer as well, and it just happens to be in songs and too. And you have this and you have this California vibe too. I mean, it's all kind of melding into like everything that I've seen so far. So that makes sense in my head. Wow.
Oh,
okay.
cool.
Yeah. So even on that, I mean, I've been jamming your stuff for the past couple of days. Just kind of, just trying to get it in the head and in the blood for this. And that's something I noticed right off the bat, that everything was more poetically driven than like, well, here's the hook, and then that's automatically going to be the title. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, totally. I think I mean, I've been singing and writing since I was little. I've been playing guitar since I was 11, but I always kind of feel like I come at things as a writer more than anything, like a songwriter first and foremost. And all of those singer-songwriter records are still the ones that, when in doubt, I go back to. So I think that's kind of just in me innately, to kind of like, what's the story and what's the emotion, and how can I convey that in, you know, this little emotional time capsule of a song.
Yeah, I even find, like, if I do a writing session in LA, and it kind of depends who I get hooked up with, obviously. Like, I'm such in this Nashville bubble, you know, it kind of almost becomes a little formula. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And then, like, if I go write in LA, like, I've realized that a lot of the songs, and I guess it depends genre-wise, that, you know, it's more poetic driven. It's more like throwing back to that Joni Mitchell idea, poetic, like there's just a line, like especially like in your music, like if I was going to sit down and write like No Fun With You, like for example, just purely example, that I mean, to me, when I look at that and the stanzas and how it's formed, to me, it's a poem and not this Nashville song. And I just feel like that's just a 100% like LA vibe, and especially the stuff that you kind of rattled off too. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I mean, I did write that in LA, and I'm definitely very inspired by the Southern California sound, but I recorded it in East Nashville at the
that's
Bomb
awesome.
Shelter.
Yeah. And that's something I knew too. Like, did you write any songs like here in Nash? Did you do the co-write or anything?
No, they're all original songs just by me, but I actually did finish that one in Nashville just because I started it the night before I was flying to Nashville to record, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I just scribbled down the lyrics and threw them in my suitcase, and I was staying with a friend in Nashville, and I had one day before I was going into the studio, so I just finished it, and I sent it to my producer, Andrea, and I was like, hey, like, I know we have too many songs already to record, but what do you think of this one? And he was like, okay, like, he told me later that he, like, rolled his eyes, like, yeah, sure, like, we're going to try to fit another song into this recording session. And then he listened to it, and he's like, oh, this one's cool. Yeah, we have to record this. And it kind of became our favorite, and became the title of the EP, No Fun. But yeah, like, I think that one was cool because there's something about the newness of that I think I hear on the recording. Like, we all were really excited because I was still kind of finishing melodies and stuff as we were in the studio, and it just was very, very fresh.
Do you feel like this was a song for you that kind of helped like establish like a little bit of an identity for you?
Yeah, I mean, it ended up being the first single that I ever released. So I think it did establish kind of my sound, and it was the first thing that I was sharing with people. So, and also I think there's something about just, you know, that was just the first line that I wrote in the song, you know, it's no fun. But then the words no fun carry a lot of meaning right now. And I think it kind of had a little life of its own. I made these no fun t-shirts that keep selling out. And, you know, it's like it's an easy thing to grab onto, especially just with everything going on in the world and, you know, the current climate, just it feels like no fun a lot of the time.
Yeah. It's definitely no fun in my situation right now. This is the most like human action I get, hanging out with you.
I know. At least we have this. At least we have technology. I've never been so grateful for it.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what most of my stimulus check is probably going toward, the internet bill.
Seriously.
Yeah. So, okay. Because you're so fresh, like especially popping on the scene, and things are really like, seems like it's just popping for you, right? Like, does things like seem to be kind of working this domino effect for you as like your artist career?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's been really cool to get to share some music with people and see how people have responded to it. It's really rewarding. You know, I've been writing and recording for a long time, and I kind of held on to things until I felt like I was ready to put it out. And I think the best thing is just sharing it finally, you know, and showing people something. And I have a lot more stuff ready to go. So just figuring out the best way to share it. And obviously I'm excited to play more shows. I was supposed to go to South by Southwest this year, which was of course canceled, and do some touring and stuff, but I'll get back to that again when it's safe.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I'm kind of bugging you about like your songwriting and you as an artist, it just seems like, man, like whatever you got, and that's what my appeal is that for some reason this makes sense and it's so cool. I really want to dive in and get to know like who this person is, but then also the music as well. And it just seems like artistically, it's just kind of like you nailed it like from the beginning. Like there's just this complete vibe visually, but then like even auditorily and even sonically speaking, it's like this fresh thing in my ears. Like it really, to me, like it was kind of like a Jefferson Airplane meets like a Joni Mitchell kind of thing. And
oh, cool. I love that.
I totally thought, where on earth, like, does this come from? I mean, you as an artist, and especially starting so fresh, like, I mean, this seems so weird, but I know tons of people have done something like this. Like, have you just spent time of like saying, well, I'm going to be this, I'm going to do this? I mean, is it as, I don't know,
Not
mathematically?
really.
No? Okay.
I mean, I don't think so. Well, I think it just kind of organically happened. Like recording in Nashville at the bomb shelter was a really big moment for me in terms of figuring out my sound, and it's always evolving, and I'm sure it'll continue to. But just working with Andrea and everyone at the bomb shelter. John Estes is another amazing musician who plays on my EP and also produced one of the songs on it. And I think just having an incredible group of collaborators was huge. And we recorded at the bomb shelter, which is a studio that we recorded everything to tape, and it has that kind of retro grainy feel to it. And I love the 60s and 70s recording techniques, and so does Andrea. And so we did a lot of that. And, that's kind of how he operates usually, but it's also something that I've always wanted to do. So it was kind of, I guess it was intentional because I went there and recorded, but it didn't feel like we were going for a retro vibe, or, like some of my references were old and some of them were new. And it was just kind of what felt right for the song. Because I feel like at the end of the day, all you want to do is serve the song, and then whatever naturally comes out is what's supposed to be for that. And yeah, I think it's sort of like a mix of my Southern California upbringing and the stuff I listened to as a kid with this kind of East Nashville thing, and then spending time in New York and playing shows all over. I lived in Ireland while I was in school and played in pubs every weekend and read a lot of poetry. And I think, like all of us, we're kind of an amalgamation of all of our experiences and influences.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a chicken and or the egg situation, right? It's kind of like,
right.
I mean, it's the thing that you should be building who you are as an artist from the beginning, especially in music, right? Because, I mean, it's different than acting. I mean, you're supposed to be like this canvas when you're on stage, and then when you learn this part and you become this different person, then you become that person. But music is...
Right, you're embodying someone else.
Yeah, and the music is supposed to be like, and I guess maybe it depends on what kind of artist you are or you want to be. That's where, especially in today's culture, I feel like where music is the most realism of art forms, especially what I feel like people gravitate toward. I feel like people love to be... I was thinking about this today, like even kind of learn a little bit of your background, that, you watch a play and it kind of feels like, you're watching a TV show maybe. I mean, you're on your couch and then they're in that world and you get to have a bird's eye view, a drone view of this world. But then like when you watch an artist on stage, like you want to pull those people into your life, and it becomes a little bit more realism than it is this fictional thing that you watch through a TV screen. And so
it's true. It's completely opposite. Like, being an actor, you're supposed to just be this neutral vessel that's channeling some other energy or another person's experience. And at least for me, and the kind of songwriter that I am, I'm drawing from a lot of personal experience. So you're really just opening yourself up like, a book to read for other people. And I think that's what's really cool about music. Like it's such a universal language, and it's so personal. Like immediately you can connect with a stranger in the crowd who might have gone through something similar or something completely different, but some line that they relate to. And I know for me, like music is just such a gift, especially, in good and bad times. But like just my whole life, I can think of like the song that would go with a specific period. You know, I feel like I have like a soundtrack to my whole life. Like, you know, that year I was listening to the Strokes and, you know, in high school with my friends, or that year I was listening to Big Star when I first discovered them. And like, that's such a gift to get to like carry these songs with you as little souvenirs of your experience and of theirs, like whoever's writing the song, and it connects you in such a powerful way.
Yeah. I mean, how much of yourself, like personal life, I mean, you're such a fresh artist, that how much of you do you actually like put in your songs? I know that's kind of a dumb question, but how do you feel?
No, it's not a dumb question.
Well, it's kind of the thing of, well, you're an artist and you should put yourself in your songs. But then there's like this thing of, well, how vulnerable or how open should I be? Because to some people, that's a scary thing. You know, like to like bleed your emotions and like tell the world like what this thing is, you know, inside of you. I mean, is that easy for you?
I don't know. I think it's kind of morphed over the years. Like these songs that I'm putting out right now, my No Fun EP, are based on personal experience, but I kind of, like a lot of my influences are very confessional singer-songwriter type, but this is a much more triumphant kind of celebratory sounding collection of songs, like more drawing from like the wall of sound, 1960s, you know, big harmonies and strings and 12-string guitars and stuff. And I think that that part was kind of intentional in that I wanted to challenge myself a little with even songs that maybe have like an emotional or a dark backstory, or, you know, are just more bittersweet, to have the production feel kind of exciting and positive. So it's an interesting kind of like duality with those songs. And I think that was kind of a way to distance myself and the emotion from the final product. But I think, at least with a lot of the songs I'm writing right now, they're more like in your face, just kind of like very raw and honest and personal. And I think more and more I'm kind of moving in that direction, which is kind of where I knew I always would end up going, just because that's so much of the stuff that I gravitate towards. But I think
it takes time to get there, right? It's not like, I mean, even if you start X, like where you're at, it's not like you're just going to cut your wrist and write this amazing song and then like you have your emotions on that page. Like it takes time like to develop that and to be that open, right? It's not like an overnight thing.
It's true. And I think I got more comfortable with it the more shows I've played, and the more I felt really embraced by people. Like playing shows in LA, there's such an amazing community out here and elsewhere, like going back to New York and Nashville and anywhere I've been lucky enough to play. I just did a West Coast tour, and I played in Seattle and Portland for the first time. And I think it's just, the more you see people reacting in a positive way, the more you're like, okay, maybe I can show a little more of myself and get a little more vulnerable. And then the more you do it, the more you're just like, you know, I'm just going to be honest. I'm just going to be me and put it out there.
Yeah, the reason I even asked about like putting, you know, those little bits of your song, because I definitely like broke apart Wildfire. And I knew you're from California, and I know there's a thing about devil winds in the song. And, you know, that's a very like geographical thing. And so
absolutely.
And so I even wondered like how much, again, like little things do you put in yourself to say, well, here's a little bit of my identity right there, and then that's it. And then it becomes the thing of, okay, now that I put a little bit of who I am and where I'm from emotionally, what's that emotional thing that I put that's in there, you know? And I think that's the scariest part. But I love the line in that song I wish I came up with it because it seems so simple, but it's really clever. Like the line, like in the chorus, is just like wildfire, and I'm a wildflower, and like you're ready to face the heat.
Oh, yeah.
I love that line.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that song was very much inspired by moving back to LA from New York. And I moved into this little house in Angelino Heights, which is a really cute neighborhood in Echo Park. And it's all these little Victorian houses up on a hill. And the fog would roll in at night, and there are these palm trees swaying and these old street lamps. And it's all very romantic. And then I was sort of thinking about the Santa Ana winds, which are nicknamed the devil winds, and they're these notorious winds that blow through LA and Southern California and just devastate. You know, we've had these horrible wildfires, but I was thinking about how something could be so beautiful and so deadly, and then I just kind of applied it, you know, to metaphor for a person. But yeah, I was definitely inspired by LA's geography and just its vast natural landscape and beauty and all of that, coming home and appreciating it again.
Yeah. And so even for a song like that, like, do you feel that as a songwriter and even as an artist, like, okay, well, here's this little piece of me. Now, maybe can I take it a step further? Like, can I like put this more vulnerable thing in? Like, do you have that vulnerable thing, like, especially in Wildfire, since we're talking about it? Do you have something like that?
For me, it's not really conscious. Songwriting is so weird and mysterious. Like, when I'm writing a song, in general, I think it's just about letting it come to me and just kind of, I mean, we were talking about actors and how you're kind of a vessel, but I feel like as a songwriter, it's the same, like where you're just sort of channeling some other thing and, just like letting the window open a little crack so that the muse can come in or whatever, as cliche as that sounds. I think it's not really, while I'm writing, it's usually not a conscious thing of like, okay, like, how much of me am I going to put in or anything like that. It's more just like, it's usually inspired by something personal, whether it's my actual story or something that moves me. Like, I have a song that I'll be putting out called American Dream, which is just about the state of the world and our country. And I think like whatever it is, it's something that I have an emotional connection to. And then it just kind of spurs this thing inside of me. And it's almost like you grab a guitar or a recording device, whatever you have, my phone, my voice notes, and just try to get it down before it's gone.
Yeah, so it sounds like, to me, when I hear something like that, it's kind of like, and I'm totally putting words in your mouth, obviously, that
Feel free.
Yeah, that it's like a stream of consciousness kind of writing.
Totally.
Like whatever, like that lightning or that muse or whatever the music god kind of pours down in that open window of time, like that's what's going to happen on the piece of paper.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like just waiting for the inspiration to strike. Like some people, which I totally respect, are like, I'm going to wake up every day and it's like a 9-to-5 job and I'm going to write. And for me, it's kind of like, I think the more I just lay back and live my life, then the more songs come to me naturally.
Yeah, I got buddies that do that. I mean, I feel like Slahetka, if you happen to know him, he's kind of like that. And then Sam Lewis, he's another like stream of consciousness guy. But then like more the side of the fence that I'm on, like, well, there's a co-write schedule. We're going to walk in that day and we're just going to write a song off these hooks that like we have. And I don't want to generalize it like it's the thing of Nashville writing versus like a different kind of writing, but it is different. It's a different like flex.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
How do you find inspiration in those settings?
I personally, I totally feel like that people just talk in songs to begin with. Like people will just say certain things, and especially it depends what day that is too. Like if it's going to be a country co-write, dude, I'm from the South. Like my neighbors like spoke in country songs, and so it was just the thing.
Right.
It was just the thing of like pick out that one thing and then we can write about it. But then if I, like this past year, like I've totally been like more, I've been prepping isolation as well. I didn't even realize it. That I've been writing more by myself just to figure out who I am as a writer. And I found out that I'm more of like I like to try to find this emotion and like build a story around that emotion. And and so I try to like find what that is, and that's another flex muscle. But the stream of consciousness, that's a unique style of writing that I feel like I don't have, but I know tons of people that do it. And I don't know if it's a practice thing. I don't know if it's they're more in tune with the universe and I want to be in tune with that. Are they in 440 or something? Like what is that thing that they like stay in tune with? And so like, do you feel like that you practice this stream of consciousness thing?
I don't know if I practice it. I mean, and I don't think there's one right way of songwriting, you know? I think it's like whatever gets you there. It's just always been, like even as a little kid, before I could play an instrument, I was writing songs that way. Because maybe it all comes back to the only child thing. Just like having too much time on my hands, like, you know, making up stories and talking to myself and singing in the shower and whatever. But, yeah, and I don't know. I grew up. I guess the theater background comes into play a little too because I would be in these plays. Like I did a lot of Shakespeare in high school, and I still love Shakespeare. And I just think like that iambic pentameter thing, the poetry in that stuff is so incredible. And having to learn these long monologues and stuff. I think it just gets in your body a little bit. And it's very musical. Like the pentameter, the structure of Shakespearean writing, it's all very kind of sing-songy. And I think it probably helped me as a writer now that I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pacing, there's a syntax, it's definitely Shakespeare stuff, but it's just even the vocabulary. Like I noticed that too, like in your songs, like some of the vocabulary is something that is a little bit more like Old English. And I wish I would have thought of Shakespeare a lot quicker, but I mean, that totally is making a lot more sense in my head.
Funny. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like we were saying earlier, that you're just a collection of all of your experiences. So it's tucked back in there somewhere, and I'm not surprised it's coming out in one way or another.
I liked Yellow Eyes. That was a song on your EP.
Oh yeah, that one's a cover of Raylan Baxter.
Yeah, I loved his song, but I loved your version of it. It's cool.
Oh, thanks.
I love Raylan Baxter.
Yeah, he's great. I love that song too. I found that one. I first heard it when I was moving from New York to LA and first starting recording in Nashville. And it just, you know, when you hear a song that you didn't write, but it feels really personal. It's just one of those songs that like struck a chord, and I was like, oh, I want to start playing that. And I started playing it with my band, and it just like fit right in with our other songs. And, you know, people were like, oh, like you should record that. And then I had a few hours left at the end of a session in Nashville at the bomb shelter when we were recording my EP. And I was like, hey, do we have time to just try out this cover? And we literally recorded it in a few hours, me and John Estes. But yeah, I love that song.
Yeah, it's gnarly. So a lot more stuff that I'm seeing about you. It seems like this Americana genre has like gravitated toward your sound. Like, have you felt that?
Yeah, I don't know. The term Americana is funny to me. Like I still don't fully know what it means.
Dude,
but
I'm
I mean,
100% with you.
Any label or genre that anyone wants to give me, you know. I think, yeah, I grew up with a lot of the kind of folk stuff and the country stuff too. Like my mom loves Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson and Patsy Cline. And, you know, I grew up with all of that. So I think if Americana is kind of this like folk country blend, that makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean,
you know, that's kind of...
Like, it is. Like, I mean, I'm in Nashville, so I see, like, this genre all the time, and it's still a mystery in my head. And it's not because it's the confusion of it. It's just the thing of, like, when I listen to your stuff, like, I just think, oh, yeah, that's a cool song. That's pretty cool music. I could hear this on a track, on a movie, or I could, jam it on Lightning 100, like an independent, like, radio station, or even like a pop thing, like if they wanted to do like a cool indie songwriter deal. But then when you start like attaching a label to it, like Americana, or you attach country to it, it's kind of like, oh, well, now it feels like you're putting it in a box just so like we can understand it a little bit. But especially Americana, it's kind of like, well, you just made it that much more confusing because you try to package it in this Americana box, but nobody knows what that thing is. So
yeah, how dare you? How dare you put me in a box?
No, I mean, it's kind of that thing. And so I didn't know how you felt about that because I got mixed emotions about it, especially with that like attached to you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it does kind of simplify things for the sake of, like, I understand we're living in an age where, I mean, we're kind of post-genre because everything is inspired by everything,
Yeah,
but,
right.
But we're also living in an age of, like, Spotify playlists being this important thing for music and just trying to categorize in order for people to be able to find the kind of music they like. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's like everyone always asks, oh, what kind of music do you make? And like, that's the first question. And it's always tricky to know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I bet that is. I mean, as an artist, I mean, that's tough. I mean, because it's that thing of like, I always feel like everybody wants to figure out who you are and what makes you you. But then people don't realize, like, oh, we're complex beings. We can be like more than one thing. It's an and world, not an or world. And so I just feel like when somebody says Americana and they point the finger at you, it's just kind of like, it's kind of the Tyler Childers kind of thing. Like he kind of felt like he was stuck in purgatory because they started labeling at him as Americana, but the dude is just way more than that. And so I find that there's more people maybe like in my mentality and his mentality, they're just kind of like, yeah, we're just kind of doing this music thing. And it's awesome that they want to play it, but I'm also more than that.
Right. Yeah. And I think we're all evolving and changing all the time as artists. And I think, yeah, the one risk of getting put in a box early on is not being able to get out of it. If you suddenly put out like, a death metal record, people are like, wait, but I thought, I mean, I don't see that in my immediate future, but it's like, some of the stuff that I'm writing right now is really dark and, kind of would fit more in what I guess people would call like indie folk or, like a more alternative genre. And I think like, yeah, there's nothing like twangy about the stuff that I'm making, but then, like, yeah, it's understandable that people want to call you something,
Yeah, I don't know if that's a boomer mentality or what, but I just feel like it's phasing, like whatever that means. You know what I mean? Like it's just we're starting to accept that there's the lack of genre, and like genres now are more like playlists, if that makes any sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, what you were saying.
No, I agree. Totally agree.
That's it, everybody, with Mara Connor. Be sure to go check out No Fun EP. Go to maraconnor.com. Give her a follow at Mara Connor and also at Mara Connor Music on that soch. I'd love to know if you guys listen to the EP. Let us know at SMI Podcast. Of course, let her know, too. I'm glad we had a great conversation. I'm glad we got to know each other a little bit. And, yeah, I think we're going to connect in person when things get back to normal. Excited about normalcy. Never have I ever been excited about normal until now. But this is where we're at. Thanks, guys, for taking the ride and the journey with us with the conversation with Mara. Mara, thank you so much for popping on. Let me invade your time. Stay safe. Stay healthy out in LA. Let us know if you ever need anything. Of course, everybody, thanks for listening. Enjoy the likes and the views and the validation. I hope everything is well in your guys' life. Get a hold of us at SMI Podcast. Go to smipodcast.com for email and, of course, everything else that we have going on over there. If you enjoyed this conversation, what do I always say? Just share it with a friend, especially in this time of isolation. We got episodes coming out. Multiple episodes a week sometimes. It just kind of depends, but we're there the rest of the year. I'm here for you people. I'm here for you. That's where I'm at. Isolation is what's going on in my headspace right now. Hope everything is well. Seriously, on a serious note, I love you guys. Take care of yourself. Be healthy. Be wealthy. And, I don't know, try to stick it out as long as you can. We're here with you. Happy surviving out there. See you guys next time.